demonstration of Instagram today, but before we get started, I'm going to introduce myself and I'm going to ask my colleague Shannon Taylor to introduce herself as well. So Shannon, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this amazing Lunch and Learn. My name is Shannon Taylor. I'm a member of the Inno.ED team. I specifically actually coordinate the Made in DC program. So I see some familiar names on the line. I hope to connect with some of you additionally after this session. But we are just so excited to show you guys all the nuances of Instagram. We are aware that is a tool that many of our maker and small businesses utilize to really market and brand their business. And so hope you guys enjoy this session and look forward to chatting. Thanks.
Shannon, thank you so much. And you can't see me because I'm screencasting from an iPad, but my name is Kate Merrind. I am the program manager for the Innovation and Equitable Development Division at DSLBD, which includes the Made in DC program. It also includes the Dream Grants, the Aspire program, the Kiva Hub, and one-on-one technical assistance that we provide every week, both by phone and in person if you are interested at the Central Library in Chinatown, DC at the MLK Library. Today, as we walk through Instagram, some of you may be using Instagram in different ways. We're just going to walk through a lot of pieces of this. One of the things that we can share is that we operate the @ThisIsMadeInDC Instagram, and that is what you're seeing here right now. So this is our account. So if you would like to follow us, you can feel free to follow us at @ThisIsMadeInDC. And we do end up sharing a lot of great information about DC makers and information for DC makers. And I'm going to walk us through, but at various times, Shannon's going to jump in with some additional tips because she's the one who is running that Instagram right now. So as you were looking at the screen here, what you're seeing is what this looks like if it is on your phone or on an iPad. You can log into Instagram through a web browser, and you can do most things, but it really is optimized to a mobile device. And so a mobile device is going to allow you more flexibility and more options as you are trying to think about Instagram. So if you're first setting up your Instagram account, you can actually connect it with Facebook. It is owned by Facebook, and so there are ways to directly connect those accounts, and it will probably ask you what your Facebook account is for you to be able to set that up. And if you are interested in the future of doing paid promotions, which is not at all required on Instagram, it can be entirely free. But if you want to do paid promotions, you'll definitely have to have that connection to the Facebook account. So one of the very first things that you'll set up in Instagram when you're first coming through is a logo. And you can actually see across the top here some of the different logos that people have put in. Ours is the logo on the left. That is our profile pic. Ours happens to be round, so it fits very well into Instagram. But you see some other people have logos that are not necessarily round, but you can still see them. And so people can very quickly see what that logo is. When you start thinking about an Instagram account for your business, you want to think about an entirely branded look and feel. And so you want the images to look similar. They want to tell the brand story. If you have colors or logos, you want to make sure that those are incorporated throughout your Instagram. So as we look here on the screen, there's a lot of things, and sometimes they're moving and changing things. In the last couple of years, Instagram has added a lot of new features. But if we go down to the bottom, I'm going to click this little button that looks like a house. That is the home page. And that brings us to where we are right now. We were already on the home page. But the home page is going to show you across the top any stories that you have and any stories that people that you follow have. So let's first just think about what a story is. And we will click into one of the great businesses that's here in the district. Shop Made in DC is not part of the, they're not running the certification program for Made in DC, but they have many great makers who are part of that. They're an independent shop here in the district. And so when you click in, a story, as you see from what they have here, is a full screen image that comes up and then it rotates very quickly. You'll see across the top that little moving button. It's showing you how quickly these stories are moving through. And so in a story, you can either create new content or you can take someone else's post and you can share that. We'll come back on stories in a little bit. Stories are just one way that you can feature content. Stories expire after 24 hours. So if you are interested in thinking about keeping your stories around, I'm going to go to the DC logo over here, and I'm going to think about highlights. And so I've just switched. We were on the home button, and at the bottom, I pressed on my logo so that I could see a little bit more about my page. And I want to see how I can keep my stories. You're going to see a bunch of circles that are in the middle of the screen. Those are highlights that we have saved of the stories that we've previously done. You can also create a direct highlight now. That's a newer feature if you don't want to post it to stories, but it can be very useful to do so. So we'll show you some of the stories that we have done for the Market Access Grant. So we have added music to the story. I'm not sure if you can hear that. Hopefully you can. It's been optimized for it. And this story is designed to tell you about the Market Access Grants. So as we switch through, it's all branded in one way. It has content, it has information, and currently it has options to swipe up. This feature is about to change, but for folks who swipe up, they'll be able to get a direct link to the information that we're talking about. So this one right here in red would take you directly to the YouTube video for that. And so if I wanted to be able to create a new story and then save it to one of these highlights, I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go to one of our posts.
Hey.
This is a post that we have here. And so I want to share this post to stories. So if everyone could stay on mute, that'd be super helpful. And I know Shannon's looking to make sure that we can help mute our guests. All right. What I'm doing right now on one of our posts is showing you how to make a story. When you look at the post, that's an image that we've posted, but you will see there are these three buttons here. One that's a heart, one that is a speaker bubble, and one that is an arrow. I'm going to press on that arrow, and there's some different things that I can do with the post. I can share it with my other contacts, which are the folks who are here on the bottom. If I don't see a contact, I want to share it, I can look up their name, I can research it. I can create a group to send it to, which would be multiple folks, or I can add the post to my story, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Add the post to my story. And so what comes up is that Instagram will do a background with colors that match and that are similar. And it will also show this little app made in DC underneath the image. If I click on the image, it's going to show it even more clearly that it's a post. And so it'll show some of the text that we've added to that post. So I can do this different ways. I can have that, I cannot have that. I don't want that coming up right now, so I'm going to click back on the image again, and it's going to go away. But there's a lot that I can add to this post. So let's think a little bit about what we can add right now. So at this time, I would love to add some additional text. So I've decided that I'd like to write something. And I'm going to write, this is a test story, just so that you can see what's going on. Now, if I want, I can move that text around. I can move the image around, I can make it bigger. So I put the text at the top, but maybe I don't like this font. So if I click back on it, I can also change the font. And down here in these circles that have the A's in it are lots of different fonts. That's a different font, that's a different font. I'm gonna pick Comic Sans. We're gonna have a little bit of fun today. And so with Comic Sans, I can see this up here, but maybe I wanna have it stand out a little bit. So I'm gonna click on that text again, and I'm gonna change the color. So if I wanna change the color, I can press the color wheel at the top. It gives me some direct colors that I can select. So I'm gonna change it to red. It also gives me a dropper if I wanted to pick a color from the screen. It's actually very similar. I'm picking a color from the screen, but since everything is blue, it's turning away and not showing very well anymore. So I'm going to change it back to pink. So I've changed the color. I can also change some other things up top. These menu items on the top, I can change where it is justified, whether it's center. I can also, with this A with the stars, put a background behind it. And there are usually a couple different backgrounds. You see how that changed in different colors? Those are different backgrounds. There's no background, there's that direction background, and then it flips the colors. I can also have the text move. And so there are different options. This text is now moving around on the screen if I wanted to. So you can play around with all these different options and get the text the exact way that you want to. But for right now, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to click done. So now I have moving text that is on here. If I want to, I can draw on the screen. So I'm just going to draw some lines in. I can do all of those same things in changing the colors of the lines, or I can change the thickness of the lines, or I can change the type of line that it is. So you see that that is now a neon line that I've put in. Maybe I don't like one of these lines, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase it. Lots of different options for how you can keep adding to your post. So now that I've decided I don't actually want any of those lines, I am going to think about adding stickers or small GIFs. That's what the smiley face is here towards the top. There's all sorts of things that you can look for. Some of these ones that are at the top when you look to add a sticker are very common. So if you want to add a location, so if you are at a place and you want someone to come down, you can click location and then you'll actually be able to put in a geo tag of where you are. If you want to shout somebody out, so I'll do that right now. I'm going to shout out the agency, Small Biz DC. All right, let me try that again. All right, that didn't work, so I'm going to delete it. To delete something, I click on it and I drag it down to this trash button. But what I'm going to do is try that again with a mention. See if I can type it better this time. Small Biz DC. Right there. I have now tagged the agency in this post so that they'll be able to see it. But maybe I don't like the color of that, so I'm going to switch it. That changes that color a little bit. So I have a couple different options on color, and then I'm going to make it much smaller. Now, maybe I want to tag them because I want them to see it, but I don't want anyone to see the tag that I have, so I want to hide it. So what I'm actually going to do is pull this over top of it. So now I've layered an element that is going to alert somebody about this, but in layering that element, it's also going to keep a very clean look that's here. Sometimes we'll do that if we're going to highlight somebody. If we want to change a little bit about what this image looks like, this is a little messy. I don't like having that "this is made in DC" tag. I'm going to show you a trick. So I'm going to put in some periods and a color, and then I'm going to change the color to actually match exactly what the background is. And then I'm going to change it. Let's see, I'll change my font up a little bit. Find the right one to do this. This will work. So now look what I've done. I've created something that has some periods at the end, but has a lot of that blue color. Let me show you how I'm going to make that work. I can now drag it and make it much, much bigger, and suddenly I'm in a space where you can no longer see that tag at the bottom. I still want to tag who's in it because I don't want to be stealing someone's content. You definitely want to tag them. But now I can put that tag somewhere else so that it was in a more attractive place that I like a little bit differently. So as you think about building a story, you can use a lot of the tools that are currently in Instagram to build very interesting stories. You can even add music, and music is becoming more and more common in Instagram everywhere, and there's a lot of music that you can use. It used to be that business accounts could not use music, but that's now allowed. So these top music pieces that are coming up are music pieces that are very popular right now. Sometimes when you're thinking about marketing for your Instagram, you want to use a very popular piece of music because people want to see all the posts that someone has used for that. So what you may even do when you're browsing around Instagram and you find a song that you really like, you can actually save that audio. So this is where it shows saved audios. So I'll see if we have any that are saved right here. So we have just one, which is what we're using in the Market Access Grant, but we can save them so we can come back and find them later. Or you can simply use all of the music that is stored. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. So there's a lot that you can search for. If it is a popular song that you are familiar with, there's a good possibility that it's in here. So let's go ahead and use Happy. When I add music, there are a lot of different options. The first option is thinking about which part of the song do I want to use. And so this piece on the bottom, I can scroll. So I can start from the very beginning, and as I'm scrolling, or I can go somewhere in the middle and pick very specific lyrics. When I have the song up here, I can do different things. Right now it's showing you the lyrics, it's reading it right out to you. But I can change that. I can change the font of lyrics. Or maybe I don't want the lyrics, maybe that's too descriptive, and I just wanted to show a little bit about the music. These last two options are going to do it in different ways. And so within that, we'll pick this one and we'll click done. Hopefully you can still hear me, and then I'm going to make it small. Okay, since that's loud, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the trash too. But I could always keep adding music if I wanted to. There's only one song that you can add per story, but you can do multiple stories as you go through. So I'm going to go ahead actually, and I'm going to post this as a story right now so that you can see what it would look like to create a highlight. But you can see as I look down at the bottom, there are a few different options. I can either post it to my story, I can send it to close friends, or I can pick someone to send it to. So I could create a story just to send in the direct messages. One piece I did forget to show you are the links. This is about to change. These are the swipe up links for videos or web links. And we'll show you that notification that's coming through in just a second since that's about to change. But let's add it to the story. Okay, it is posting. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go back to the DC logo that's here. And I'm going to come up and now I can see my logo in Instagram now has this color that is around it, and that color indicates that I have a story that is currently active. So I can interact with my story in a different way than other people can. You can see down on the bottom here, there are a couple different options. I can send it to Facebook, I can add it to my highlights, or I have all these other things I can do too. I can share it as a post, I can save it, I can copy that link and just send a link to someone, but I'm going to share it to my highlights. So when I click on highlights, it is offering to have me add it to any of the highlights reels that I've created before. And these highlight reels will always stay here until you get too much content. So there actually are a lot of highlight reels that we've had in the past that we are no longer seeing that are visible, but you can see there are a ton of highlight reels that you can have. So you have an enormous capacity to be able to save stories in highlight reels on different topics. I'm still scrolling and still going over because there's still a few more that are visible. And if you
Hey,
do
can
want,
I add one thought on that as well for highlights? In the highlight reel also, the one thing that I wanted to flag, within the stories, your story will only be visible for 24 hours. So therefore, if it is content that you wish to be able to be viewed after that 24 hours, you do want to ensure that you add it to a highlight. That is the only way that your stories can be viewed after the 24-hour time frame. Okay.
thank you for that. So I'm creating a new highlight just so you can see a little bit about that. I could have added it to an existing highlight. Usually I think the existing highlights allow you to have approximately 100 stories in them. So as I create this new highlight, I can now go and view that highlight and see what's there. So I can make some adjustments to it too, because maybe I don't like what's showing up in the image and I want it to look different. So you'll see if you look across our highlights, some of them have text or information very nicely centered. Shannon has set up a few very specific ones on a few topics that have a very nicely centered set of words. Some people's Instagram accounts are going to have very specific story settings that they've done an image directly for that. You can do that image by creating a story and then saving it over, or you can do that by actually directly developing one and setting it out. But as I look at this, what I just did is I clicked into the highlights. And in clicking into the highlights, I went down to a set of buttons. Let me show you that again. It says more. And from this, I can either remove that from the highlight or I can edit that highlight. And that's what I'm going to do right now. When I edit the highlight, I can change the name and I can also edit the cover. Since there's only one post that is in this, I can only, at this time, I can only choose from one thing to edit the cover, but I can also go choose to put other stories in. So this actually has a history of all my stories. So I can go find any stories from the past here and add them to the highlight right now. So I am going to add one more piece. I'm going to add this one. Let's see, this says swipe up. I'll add that to the story as well. Let me click back here. Now you can see both of these are here. So when I go to edit the cover, I have a couple of different options. I can pick any of the stories that are here. I can change this. I can move it around. So maybe that's what I want to see. Or I can go to my pictures. You see this button right here. And so you can pick from pictures. It'll ask you if you want to access your photos. I'm not going to do that today, but if you created a photo that wasn't in the stories, but you wanted to make your cover, that's how you would do that. So let me see if I can get out of that. I'm going to say don't allow just for today. So let's go ahead and change this back. Let's see. Sometimes you can't make things big enough, but we'll try and just leave it on that for right now. See, just a little bit of text is coming in from the side. I can't quite get it to fit. So that's why you might want to design something that is specific for it. All right, I'm going to click done. And we're going to get out of stories and talk about some of the other things that we can do. So as we come back to the This Is Made in DC account, you'll see I don't see those menu bars that are on the bottom that were there before. But in the top left, I do see a small arrow that says that I can go back. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click out of a lot of things. Sometimes you get in different screens. You have to keep going back. But here, I've gotten back to that page that is my page that I get to by clicking on This Is Made in DC. So that tells you a lot about some of the different pieces that you can use in stories. There are a lot of other ways to share content. And we're going to go through some of them more quickly. This has showed you some of the different things that you can do. So when you click this plus button at the top, you're going to see all of the different ways that you can share content. So a direct post is a static post that you will put up. It doesn't have the ability to have music and links as much. It can be a video, so it can be some music, but you're not going to add music in the same way. You can add a story or a story highlight, And I'm actually going to ask Shannon to come in and just tell us a little bit about how we use Made in DC Live to IGTV. And I'll try to show you around a little bit as Shannon just described some of that use, because we found Live and the IGTV video to be very powerful tools. Welcome. So Shannon, as you think about...
Yes, hope you guys can hear me okay. So as Kate mentioned, we do a lot on the Instagram in the way of live, IG live. And so what we do when you go live to the IG, after you go live, you're able to physically save your live into your IGTV. And so that means that the live again you can show a snippet of it on your feed, and then you can also select it to be saved down. Second, sorry, saved down on your IGTV. And so that way individuals can go back later and see any of the live videos that you did. So Kate, if you can select the IGTV.
I actually want to go back here. Let's see. Oh, I have to find it again. There it is. So these are some of the ones that we've done. So I'll click a little bit. Do you want me to click on one?
Sure, yes. Hope you guys are having an amazing week. I am super excited. It's been a long time since we've been on live. So this particular video was recorded about a week ago with DSLPD. I'm the Made in DC. I did this interview live in person and then saved it down to the IGTV. Therefore, if let's say there was a topic that we covered for that day, you were unable to join the live in real time, you can then go back to our IGTV and view that live video. So if it was an interview, in our case with Made in DC, which a lot of these are, we are physically going out, visiting some of our maker businesses or our DC-based businesses, and we're conducting an interview with the business owner, or really just highlighting and showcasing their space or the event. So if you missed it in real time, you can go back to the IGTV and view all of those previous live IG videos so that you're able to connect back to the business, find out any additional information or resources that were shared during that actual live.
So when you post an IGTV video, it is usually going to be a video that is between 1 and 15 minutes long. If you have a video that is less than 1 minute, you can post that directly in your posts to your feed. And so when you come back, the posts in your feed are the ones that you see right here when you go to your homepage. These are all of your posts in your feed. So these are static posts. You can see up towards the top, the television shows you when you have an IGTV video, and you can do a preview from IGTV and it will show 1 minute of content and then give people an option to click into the longer post. But there's another new option that's been pretty strong, which is Reels. I'm going to show Reels very briefly. Reels are short videos. It's kind of like TikTok. I think it is Instagram's version of TikTok. And you can see one of these that we've done. We haven't done as many Reels, but we are seeing a lot of people who are doing them. You can add to that. You can either create a Reels by creating a short video in something like canva.com, or if you have a video that you've recorded, you can put that up and then add text, add music, add other things to the background. We are seeing a lot more people use Reels these days, and the same thing that you can do with the IGTV video, you can choose to do a short post that comes back to your main page. These are some of the functions on Instagram. I also want to talk a little bit about promotions, insights, and adding the shop towards the top. We don't use these features as much, but they may be features that you want to know about. Promotions are typically paid. But if you pay for a promotion, that will mean that the algorithm is going to show your post to more people. So if you are thinking about doing a paid promotion for Instagram, you might want to start with a small budget for that, test it out and see what is happening and see if you want to continue to do that. Is Instagram the space that you want to do that? Is Facebook? Is somewhere else? Because there are a lot of different places that are very happy to take your ad dollars, and it becomes a question of, is that of value to you? And at what time is that of value to you? You probably don't want to, some people may want to promote posts all the time, but there may be people who only want to promote posts at specific times when they're doing a specific drive, either on sales or on followers. Insights, which I am going to click into. So Insights says a little bit about who is following you and how much content you've shared. So, and it only shows about a week back. Shannon, do you want to say a little bit about some of the things you've been looking at in Insights in the last little while? Okay. I'll go ahead and say a little bit about Insights. So Insights include how many accounts are reached, how many people are interacting with your content. You can see some of our content is a little bit down. How many total followers do we have? Some of the content that we've shared. And as you go through that, you can also look to create, this also gives you an ability to go and create new pieces. The top, it says last 7 days. You can do last 14, last 30. They've actually added some more insights. So one of the things that you can do is continue to look. I guess you can look as back as far as 90 days right now and see what type of interactions you're getting on your posts. But as you look at insights, it's important to recognize that if you want to really get a lot of followers on your content, there are a few different rules. One rule is you need to have fairly consistent content. So if you aren't updating your content very often, the algorithm isn't going to pick it up and share it and show it to new people. But another piece is you need to be interacting with other people's accounts. So if you do not interact with other people's accounts, they're less likely to follow you, they're less likely to see you. So thinking about how to gain followers, part of it is being highly engaging. As you are highly engaging, there's a lot of sharing of love on Instagram, highlighting other people, shouting other people out, and making sure that if you are sharing someone else's content, I showed you before like how to hide, what the name of is that post, but we don't recommend that you not share who it was. You just might want to share it in a different way. You always want to give credit to somebody else if they have created content and show your appreciation for them. And what we find is the people who are highly collaborative are the people who get greater followings. One of the most successful marketing tools that we see people use on Instagram is being able to do collaborations. Those collaborations are finding another brand, doing something of some sort of contest or giveaway. And within that, they ask people to follow both brands, and then they ask people to like the post and maybe even tag additional people. So they get lots of followers from that, and then they give something small away. There are other types of contests that you can also design for engagement. But one last piece, and it's not something that we do right now, so we're going to show you just a little bit about it. You can choose to add a shop and make sales directly from Instagram. That may be connecting with Shopify. There may be some other ways to do that, but as you add a shop, if you don't want to create another online presence or space to sell, you may be able to sell directly from your Instagram. And a lot of people do. We don't have enough time to go into a lot of details on that today, but we just wanted to share that option. And I do want to pause and just ask, Shannon, if with 2 minutes left, if there was anything else that you think is super important for people to know, what would be that top thing?
Yep, I would just say, as Kate mentioned, in your level of engagement, increasing your followers and viewership, and as you start to really look at your insights, another thing to note too is that the more that you're able to diversify the content that you are sharing, the better that you are able to trick the algorithm as well. And so in saying that, I mean, it's great that you do post onto your news feed, but you also want to change the type of post that you do there. So you might want to throw in a reel. You might have gone live or not, or created a video. You want to use all of those components, as well as adding things to your story, and definitely hashtagging and tagging others within your relevant content so that you can pull additional people to see your post if they are not already seeing you in their feed. So to Kate's point, we know that Instagram, although free, they have made it where certain pieces are not going to get as much engagement without that promotional piece, but there are ways to trick that system. And so hashtagging, tagging others so that they can see your post, including your post or highlighting that you have a new post within your stories is also another great way to get people to come to your actual page. So just think about that as you develop your content and getting some diversity and changing up the ways that you are actually physically posting to your newsfeed.
Shannon, thank you so much for that. I know that there were a ton of features that we weren't able to cover in the main space. We're going to stay around for a few minutes and answer some questions, both from our live audience who's here, as well as folks who are on the chat. But as I do that, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll stick around for a couple more minutes for that. Shannon, have any questions come in yet that we'd want to address?
Oh, someone can't hear. Great. Sorry, I'm in the middle of screen share, so I think my volume is off. But one question did come through. When hashtagging a post, is it best to hashtag the actual post or to add a comment to your post and hashtag it there?
So that may be a changing and moving piece of information because they are always changing the algorithm. So do keep an eye on what people are saying about changes, and you can also test it out. I have seen it always stronger on the post, but we've also seen some differences in how people are doing things. People used to do very big hashtag clouds, and we're seeing a lot fewer hashtags these days. That doesn't mean that the hashtags aren't there, but I think that people are now navigating Instagram in so many different ways that the hashtag may not be the first thing that they're going for. So as you think about a hashtag, part of what you want to do is think about who are you trying to find in your market? Who do you want to find you? And what hashtags might they be looking for? Because the hashtag could be really obvious towards your type of product. It could be about the type of business owner that you are or the type of business that you have. It could be about principles that are around your brand. There could be different things that you hashtag, but people are using them in a more curated and limited sense these days. And if you've added them, you can always go back to a post. You can't do this with all of your content on Instagram, but you can go back and edit. So I'm going to show you how to edit right now. If I wanted to go back and add a hashtag to this, I could add that hashtag in now. So you can always add it later if you want to, if you think that that's valuable. Are there other questions? Well, we really appreciate everyone coming out today. I know that this was a quick and short introduction to some things on Instagram. I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have, is that a question? Yep. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have would be to have fun, because that fun shows. People want to engage with accounts that are having fun, that are lively, and that are friendly. And so as you think about that and think about what your brand means, you can try something out, and if it's not working, you can always delete it off and try something new, or leave it on and try something new. Just continue to look for ways for where your audience is and how you have fun interacting with them. All right, thank you so much. Oh, we have a question, yeah. Oh, is it better
Car
to do?
accident, that stuff,
Yeah.
that's always a nightmare.
So there was a question in the room, and the question was, is it better to post a picture or is it better to post text? So there are different Instagram account styles. You might want to think about what style you have. There are some people who are very successful with quotes. There are some people who have images only. So you're developing a style for your brand as you go through. There are also people who do a very nice job of mixing back and forth. So I'll show you, like when you look at our account, we haven't designed this page, but there are ways that you can actually design what this home screen looks like. So there's a visual component to all of the posts together. And that can be a very nice thing to do as well. Sometimes people like to do that or have a consistent look and feel. So I don't think one is better than the other, but if you are selling a product, if that is your business and you are selling a product, you should show people pictures of the product. Those should be, those products can either be sort of set in a gallery setting, or those products can be in real life. But you want people to be able to see the product, understand how it would be used, and be able to see enough aspects about it because they're thinking about buying it. And so always think about what that might mean. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to stop recording. I just want to say thank you to